Hi, my name is Scott McDonald. I'm one of the English faculty here at Barton Community College and on the Great Bend campus. I'm also the editor for Prairie Ink. We're very excited to have you with us here for the 11th issue launch of Prairie Ink. We're doing it all digitally, and we're very excited that you're able to join us. We are very excited and fortunate that we're able to continue to celebrate the voices of our community and that we get to have you as members of that community. Please enjoy these readings from some of our authors from this year's edition. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Olivia Herman, and I will be reading my personal essay titled The Birthing Tree. The memories I have with my family are ones I will cherish forever. I grew up on a farm in northwest Kansas where we raised cows and harvested milo and wheat. There's a pasture right next to my house, as flat as most people assume Kansas is, except in one place. In this place, there's a drop-off where a beautiful spiraling tree calls home. This tree is not like any other, although it used to be. It used to grow vertically, just like many people assume trees grow, but one particularly harsh winter, it froze and cracked down the middle due to the weight of the ice. Now, the tree grows outwards as if it is trying to reach the side of the hills on either side of it. Not only is this tree a spectacle for all the people who witness it, but for some reason, it captured the eyes of the cattle as well. I remember one of the first times I ever went to check on the cows with my dad. It was a cool morning where the rising sun shined brightly on the green grass that was blanketed with moisture. I hopped in my dad's pickup while 80s rock blasted through the speakers. I was young, but my dad still let me sit up front with him. I remember my eager self peeking out of the window at groups of fuzzy black cows. My dad explained to me how each newborn calf needed to get its ears pierced so we could tell which cow was its mother. Most of the cows and calves are all black, and it would be complicated to pair them together without these tags. We started slowly creeping through the pasture, tiny black calves tucked into themselves as the sun did its best to wake them up from their slumber. I was so interested in seeing these babies, especially the newborns, and I quickly made this known to my father. He gave me a nod and assured me that he knew where to find them. His pickup slowly rolled down a hill and revealed a beautiful and tangled tree I remembered seeing as we would drive by this pasture to go to town, but being this close to it was puzzling to me. I could not understand how this tree was able to grow the way that it did. My eyes danced around the winding branches and twigs until they finally landed on something even more spectacular, a cow and her newborn calf. I gasped with excitement and pointed frantically to the new life that was kindly being welcomed into this world by its mother. My father told me, "I don't know why they come here to have their babies, but they always do. I know if a certain cow is close to having her baby, she will be at the birthing tree." The birthing tree. That name stuck to me for years to come. My younger brother and I loved playing in the crisp autumn leaves and often found ourselves near that very tree. Being the two youngest siblings out of 4 kids, we found ourselves bickering and fighting very often. But something about being by the birthing tree changed things. We could easily climb on the branches, with them growing so close to the ground, and run across them. We would bounce and wiggle on these branches until we would see more and more leaves come falling from the tops of the tree. When we got bored of this play, is when our imagination would run wild and we would envision ourselves to be mythical monkeys that we heard roamed around our forests. We would shout from the top of our lungs and find big tree branches to bang together to create a big clapping noise to communicate to our 8 brothers and sisters. We both knew how dumb these shenanigans were and would eventually end up laughing instead of howling like a Sasquatch. After all this playing, my brother and I would be tired of this cool autumn air stinging our lungs and decide to call it a day. But not many days would pass until my brother would ask me again, "Want to go to the birthing tree?" As I grew older, I became less interested in climbing trees, but on days I felt like I needed to clear my head, I would ask my mom to join me on a walk. There are many things my mom and I do not agree on. She is a strong, strict woman who knows what she believes in and rarely strays from these views. But when we would go for these walks, those differences melted away. I would tell her about the boys I liked, the confusion I faced, and the awkward encounters I had in school. And she would give me her very honest opinion on what she thought, which quickly had me laughing. My mom would tell me stories of her childhood and the kind of trouble she found herself in so that I could relate them to my issues with siblings or friends at school. The advice my mom has shared with me is advice I will never forget. Soon, we would walk down the same hill we had walked down so many times before to see the tree standing proudly to our left. I would always point out how interesting it was that no matter what storm Mother Nature threw its way, the tree always went into bloom come spring. My mom smiled and told me, things that have been broken in the past can still bloom into something even more beautiful than before. I knew I needed to get something that meant significant to me. It needed to mean family, all the memories I had with my parents and siblings, and how much I cherished them. It needed to mean love, how strongly I cared for the people who are rooted in some of my favorite memories, and everything I would do for them. It needed to mean perseverance. No matter what could bring me down, I will still be able to get back up and fight harder than I had ever fought before for the things and people that mean the most. My family has been there for me, even when I have made terrible mistakes. My parents always told me that no matter what, they would never leave me to deal with the mistakes on my own. It would not be the same without them being there with me every step of the way. I heard a buzzing sound behind me, and my nerves hit me all at once. I gritted my teeth, knowing the pain I was going to have to endure for the next hour was going to be tough. The hour went by quickly, to my surprise, and soon enough the tattoo artist announced he was finished. He held up a mirror in front of me so that I could look at the beautiful and meaningful piece of art on my back. The thing I knew I would never regret, dislike, or grow out of because it meant so much to me. The thing that will be on my back even when they put me 6 feet under. I gasped in awe of what the artist had created. It was just as I had envisioned. The birthing tree.
My name's Lily Hoskins. When I wrote this, I was an 8th grader in Ellenwood Middle School, and I've been an avid reader ever since I've learned to read. I've wanted to be an author before kindergarten, and I've made several drafts of work. My mother saved many books I've written and illustrated over the years. This includes a series I wrote in 1st grade, which starred my favorite stuffed animal, Mr. Froggy. Recently, my English class has been reading some Gothic genre stories. Feeling inspired, I decided to write Family Ties. My favorite genre of book has always been adventure or action. I decided to go a different route, though, however, and made this story with a darker tone. Even though this is my first piece to submit for any type of publication, I aspire to write, illustrate, and publish many pieces of literature in the future. Family Ties. At the dinner table, he sat across from her, the love of his life. After another mind-numbing day at work, he was glad to be back inside his own home. Except it wasn't just him and his family there, because eyes and ears followed him home, as they do every day. With a somber feeling in the air, he pulled a crumpled piece of paper out of his pocket and scratched something on it with his pen. He looked up with almost a dead expression, hiding the constant fear that he had to endure. Bending over, pretending to tie his shoe, he gently tossed the ball of paper under the table towards her, cringing as it hit the ground with a soft thud. After picking up, trying to look like she dropped her fork, she then sat it in her lap and seemed as though she was eating. She tried not to let her eyes widen in surprise as she read it, causing it to look like she had a twitch in her eye. She glanced over at him quickly, trying not to look suspicious. Her eyes then shifted towards her son, with a black eye on his damaged face, and her expression softened. Even with him currently glaring at his dinner plate and occasionally shooting daggers at his parents, it was clear he was so shaken at the experience with the authorities. After a few seconds, silent except for the sound of eating utensils hitting the plates, after they ate, she responded. Carefully tapping something out in Morse code, she noticed the man's delighted expression that lasted only a moment, as though his somber mask was worn once more. Later that evening, the woman pulled her son aside after the father left to clean the dishes. She got on her knees to hug him, as he was no more than 6 years old. He tried to struggle out of her affection until she whispered into his ear about how they were going to leave together with his father's friend. When she pulled back, her husband made eye contact. He silently gestured to the semi-hidden cameras and microphones. They had to spend the rest of the evening planning when to escape. They finally concluded on leaving the night after the search day and letting the friend know as soon as possible. They were going to leave after curfew, but before the patrolmen went out to their posts. And next week, they were finishing details when suddenly on the radio there was an announcement. A loud robotic voice boomed, "This is a national announcement. Due to certain rumors which have been brought to our attention, authorities decided that curfew will end 2 hours earlier than usual. To let employers change this new rule, we will give them a day to adjust. Thank you, that will be all. Stunned, the two listeners realized how quick they needed to make their changes. Since they were counting on the darkness to conceal their escape, they had to change their plan to that night. The man said a quick prayer to his coworker because they didn't have enough time to let him know about the change, and they were going to leave without him. He was the one that introduced the idea of leaving. Charles was such a strange man, and a coworker he usually avoided. He spoke in a different accent, and it was usually called filthy foreigner. The man sometimes noticed how Charles' eyes would dart around the room, if having a conversation would get him in trouble. Surprisingly, he didn't feel too bad about leaving Charles behind. Later that night, holding her son's hand, the mother kept hiding in the shadows, not letting the recently released patrolman see them. As she listened to make sure that her husband was following her, she quickly scanned to see if the streets had any good hiding spots. Her son tugged at her shirt, and she looked down in surprise. He looked confused and opened his mouth to speak. Like a flash of lightning, she put her hand over his mouth. Shakily, she put her fingers to her lips. She spotted a patrolman with a hearing aid and scooted deeper into the alley. As soon as she couldn't see the patrolman, she grabbed her son and ran across the street. She glanced back and sighed a breath of relief as she acknowledged that she wasn't spotted. The woods are so close, she thought to herself. As soon as we make it in there, we'll be good as gone. She gestured to her husband to come over. As he does, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a patrolman turning around. As he skidded across the street, he kept running past his wife and child. Realizing this, she grabbed her child and ran, following her husband. The child, still confused about what was going on, could barely keep up with his mother. Scared he would fall behind, she scooped him up in her arms and carried him in them. Suddenly, they heard dogs barking and a group of people running, almost marching nearby. But they made it just into the woods. Suddenly, they heard gunshots. The mother went down and dropped the child all the same. When the boy got back up, her breath had become irregular and ragged. It was dark, and he could barely see her, but the smell of iron was in the air. She urged him on, almost begging him to go out without her. She told him to go find his father, which he quickly agreed on. As he ran through the woods, searching for his father, the slow realization came upon him, and he realized that he was lost. Even the threatening march of enemy and their dogs had quieted. Suddenly, multiple gunshots went off. They happened automatically, so he knew that multiple people were firing. He tripped and fell to the ground, startled. Instead of getting back up, though, he lay there for a moment and started to cry. He moved himself behind a tree and leaned his back on it. Hugging his knees, he admitted that he had been scared ever since that Charles man talked to him. He described to the little boy how life was different outside of their town. He also told him how his own parents were evil and they wanted to leave him behind. Charles started to talk to him every day when the little boy went to school. He would pull him aside and tell him about the danger he was in. One time he described to the boy how he overheard his father talking at work about leaving his family, or how he would describe the life outside their city. The boy had grown to love Charles and hate his own family. So when Charles told him that his family and they were going to escape, he was excited. When asked, Charles told him he was going to get rid of his mom and dad. So when he realized Charles wasn't going with them, he got scared. And he was scared now. He began to cry for Charles, his parents, anyone. Slowly, the sound of people chasing him got louder as he drifted to sleep. He was tired of running, crying, of fearing everything. Suddenly, the clear sound of twigs snapping brought the boy back to reality. The bush in front of him revealed the crooked smiles of Charlie. As Charlie stepped out of the bush, the boy noticed him holding a pistol, wearing a guard's uniform, the same uniform the people that were chasing him were wearing. In a hushed, excited tone, Charlie whispered, "Did you think I was going to give you up? Something as simple as your traitorous parents leaving me behind wouldn't stop me from saving you. I even stopped your parents, and with the help of this disguise, blasted guards didn't even know I was one of them." Exhausted and full of relief, the boy ran up to Charles and cried into his guardsman's jacket. Trying to comfort the boy, Charles said soothingly, I wasn't much older than you are now when I moved into this wreck of a city." Charles picked up the boy, saying, "Good thing you're so light and small. We should make it to another city, better city, in a couple of hours. Come on, boys. Let's be filthy foreigners together."
This is Janie Haynes recording the Corn Maze and Intelligent Squirrels, Barty's 70th birthday party. Here is also a map of the Storyland. This is the Brian Stein's farm. This is Mushroom City, as much as I've got of it, and Greenwood Forest, Crystal Valley, and Copper Greg. It is a sultry Tuesday in July. Mom and Dad are at work. I'm driving down a long, winding road with trees scattered along the side. I'm heading to visit my friend Suzette at her family's farm. They have a lot of things on the farm. They have horses, chickens, ducks, sheep, cattle, and fruits and vegetables. The most famous thing on their farm is their large corn maze. People from around the world have come to enjoy the maze. It is a special maze. Something very unusual happens when you go in there. I'm almost at Suzette's house, and she comes out to greet me. She takes me in to see her mom. "Mom, we're going to the maze and need to get going," says Suzette. "Okay. Do you want to take a basket of food?" asked Mrs. Breinstein. "Sounds like a good idea, Mom," said Suzette. Mrs. Breinstein, Suzette, and I worked together to make a basket full of food. I asked, "Why so much food? It's like we're going far away." Suzette commented, "Wait and see." I thanked Mrs. Breinstein. Then Suzette and I headed out to the corn maze. It seemed like a long way to the maze, but it really wasn't. When we arrived, Suzette asked if we had everything. We made sure we had not lost anything along the way. Everything was there. Suzette asked me if I was ready to go in. I told her I was. I was nervous because of the food preparation that went on and how strange Suzette had acted. I did not ask. I decided just to wait and see. We walked into the maze side by side. We followed the path around the first two corners of the maze. And all of a sudden, the corn walls disappeared and it looked like we were speeding through clouds. The wind was blowing my hair everywhere. It was scaring me. Suzette seemed to be handling it all very well. Finally, we stopped and landed in a very beautiful place. We were standing in front of a large fountain made from crystals, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. While I was admiring the fountain, Suzette walked toward one of the houses and knocked on the door. The door opened and out came a tall, blonde, green-eyed, pointy-eared person. He and Suzette come walking over to me. I started backing away out of fear. Suzette says to me, "Don't worry, he won't hurt you. This is Barty, one of the elves here in Crystal Valley. He and I have become good friends. I picked today to come here because it is Barty's 70th birthday." "I'm glad to meet you, Barty," I said. "Happy birthday. My name is Janita." "Thank you, Janita, and welcome to Crystal Valley. I hope you will enjoy your time here. There is plenty to see that is different from your world," Suzette tells me. Suzette says, "Yes, there are many things and creatures here that we don't have in our world." Barty invites us in to prepare for the party. I motion for Suzette to come closer to me. This place feels weird. Like I am dreaming. It can't be real. Suzette says, "Oh, but it is real. I come here a lot. I have been coming here for 5 years. Tonight at the party, you will get to meet many more of my friends." We both go into Barty's house. He is in his kitchen preparing a berry and nut salad. It has blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, as well as almonds, cashews, and sunflower seeds. Barty made a creamy dressing for it. I don't know what the ingredients are. Suzette says, "That looks good." "Thank you. It is one of the favorite dishes around here. Folks tell me I never make enough. I made 3 large bowls of it this time." That should be enough, I would think, I said. "How many will be coming to the party?" "Probably about 100 between the elves, dwarves, gnomes, and squirrels." "Squirrels?" "Oh, yes. We can't leave out the squirrels. They would be mighty upset." "Okay. This should be interesting. Squirrels at a birthday party?" "These squirrels are not like the squirrels back home, Janita," chuckled Suzette. "They are intelligent squirrels." "We'll see about that," I snorted and walked away. Suzette and Barty continued to talk about the party while I go outside mumbling to myself. What kind of place is this? Elves, dwarves, gnomes, and intelligent squirrels? I must be dreaming. I pinch myself to see if I'm awake. Ouch! Yes, I'm awake. I'm awake. If I am awake, this must be a hallucination. Is Suzette a hallucination also? This is too much for me. I want to go back home, but how do I do that? Only Suzette knows the way back, and she won't leave now. I guess I will just have to see this through. Here comes Barty and Suzette. I had better calm down. I don't want to ruin this for Suzette. After all, she is my best friend. That is, if she is real. "Are you all right?" asked Suzette. "Just a bit overwhelmed. 100 creatures I have never seen before. I do not know what to think or do. What concerns me the most is the squirrels." "Why are you concerned about the squirrels?" asked Barty. "Because where we come from, they are wild and will bite. Sometimes they have a bad disease called rabies. If they bite us, we can get rabies and have to have shots in the stomach. These squirrels are mild-mannered and won't bite unless they are attacked or feel threatened. Why don't we go visit the squirrels before the party? That might change the way you feel about them." I'm not sure about all this. It just doesn't seem real. But I will go with you. "I assure you it is real," says Suzette. We walk down a path that looks like it was made from emeralds. "Is this path made from emeralds?" I ask. "Yes, it is," says both Barty and Suzette. Barty explains, "All of our paths are made from 4 gems of the fountain for a little way out of the valley. From there they are sand." "Where are we headed?" "Greenwood Forest, where the squirrels live." "This can't be happening. Intelligent squirrels? I don't believe this. It just can't be real." "Just wait and see. Then you will believe," said Suzette. "You're not going to convince me that this is real. Neither of you." "Oh, I think we will," chuckled Suzette. We continue down the emerald path. Then, as Barty said it would, it turns to sand, and we head north. I can see the forest in the distance. It looks like it is a long way away. I take a deep breath and keep walking. It is amazing. I am not getting tired. I feel energized in this place. I don't understand this. After all this walking, I should be getting worn out, I say to myself. "Barty, why am I not getting tired? By now I should be worn out." It is the positive energies here that are supplied by the gems and trees, replies Barty. It feels wonderful. How far are we from the forest? About a mile. How far have we walked? 2 miles. Wow! I really should be tired by now. This is awesome. We finally get to the forest. Free Cracker meets us. Free Cracker is a leader of the squirrels. Greetings, Free Cracker, said Barty. This is Suzette and Janita. I know Suzette. Good to see you again. It has been a while. I am glad to meet you, Janita, Free Cracker says as he reaches out to shake my hand. I reluctantly shake his paw and say, Glad to meet you too, Free Cracker. You seem a bit unsure of this, by the sound of your voice. I am struggling to believe this is real, especially intelligent squirrels. I am sure we can make a believer out of you. We did, Suzette. She felt the same way you do when she first arrived. I asked Suzette. I am sure we can make a believer out of you. We did, Suzette. She felt the same way you did when she first arrived. Yes, I did. But they were all able to convince me it was real, replies Suzette. Why didn't you tell me? I don't know. I guess just wanted you to believe because you believe, not because I believe. Free Cracker breaks in. Why don't we go meet the others? It is getting close to time to leave for the party. Okay, I said. We head into the forest where the squirrels live. It's a beautiful place. Not normal holes in trees for homes. They have arch-shaped houses made of wood with circular-shaped doors, with flat bottoms. They have gardens with all kinds of beautiful flowers, including sunflowers. They have nut trees all around. Their paths are made of stone. This definitely shows intelligence, as does the fact that they talk. I find myself starting to believe, but still unsure. It will take a lot more to convince me. Free Cracker is leading us to the feast hall. It is made of wood with stone at the lower 2 feet. It is also arch-shaped, but the doors are rectangles. We all go in and find it decorated for the party. The feast hall is definitely big enough to hold all who are to be at the party. Decorations include gems from Crystal Valley, mushroom-shaped figurines from Mushroom City, chainmail string made from Copper Crag to hang the gems and mushroom figurines, and nuts from the trees of Greenwood Forest. There are silver and gold plates and silverware, as well as glass goblets. I'm amazed at all I see. I ask Free Cracker, did the squirrels do all the decorating, or did the other creatures help? Free Cracker answers, the squirrels did it all. Wow, I exclaimed. They did a wonderful job. I am becoming more and more convinced as time went on, but still feel I am hallucinating. People who hallucinate feel and see some things as if it is real. I am still very unsure of all this, even Suzette. Creatures of all kinds soon are showing up. Barty introduces me to Gurjan, the lead gnome of Mushroom City. Pleased to meet you, Gurjan. I am Janita. Good to meet you also, Janita. The gnomes are really small. They don't even come up to my waist. They look somewhat like the pictures and statues I've seen back home. This is freaky. More gnomes keep coming in. I'm getting very overwhelmed. What am I going to do with so many creatures coming? I asked Suzette. Just be calm and try to relax, Suzette replies. Just then, there is another group of creatures coming in. Barty introduces me to Doran, the king of the dwarves. I curtsy and backed up a little bit from him before I rose. Doran nods his head in acknowledgement, moves on, followed by many other dwarves. Then Doran walks back towards me. I wonder what he wants. What is your name, young lady? Asked Doran. Janita, your majesty. I am sorry I was so rude to you and just walked on. I am not normally that way. I have a lot on my mind with this party. A 70th birthday is special. We still need to put decorations up outside. May we help? Broke in Suzette. Sure can, said Doran. We all hung chainmail strings, then hung gems, mushroom-shaped figurines, nuts, and other things. Queen Valina, Queen of the Elves, comes up to Barty and says, Happy birthday. Then she leads him to the table where the food is. Let us eat, she says. Barty first, of course, since this celebration is to honor his 70th birthday. Everyone is cheering, including me. Congratulations, Barty. Enjoy yourself tonight, I say. Thank you, Janita, smiles Barty. You are very welcome. The festivities lasted a long time. I asked Suzette what time it is and how much longer it will last. She says it is 2 a.m. and it will last all night long. If you are worn out, you can find a place to curl up and go to sleep. Where can I find a place here to sleep? There are plenty of lush, soft patches of grass between the trees. I decided that was a good idea and went to find a patch of soft grass and lay down. Before I know it, I am sound asleep. I slept so sound that I never heard anyone come around me. The squirrels walked around me to get to their homes. The elves, gnomes, and dwarves are laying all around me. Suzette curls up behind me. I wake up not sure what to do. How long have they been asleep? When will they wake up? Suzette yawned and whispered back, We have been asleep about 3 hours. We all started laying down shortly after you did. The rest should be waking up in about an hour or two. Why don't you try to get some more sleep? That sounds like a good idea. I laid back down and drifted in and out for a while, then fell asleep. I dreamed intensely of the activities that happened the day before. I wake up with Suzette calling my name. Janita, wake up, Suzette says in a sing-song tone. Okay, I'm awake. So are we, said almost all of the other creatures. Most everyone seemed to be hungover and miserable, yet they seemed to have had a great deal of fun the night before. I am still not sure it is real, and wonder what it will take to convince me. I want to believe it is real. It feels real, but my logical mind won't let me accept it. I am back to that reality when Barty says good morning, Janita. Did you sleep well? For the most part, yes. I am still having trouble believing this is real, though. I don't know what it will take for me to believe that it is. We will find a way to help you believe. It may take a couple more visits. Suzette took 4 visits before she truly believed. Be patient, Janita. Suzette is so at ease here. She acts like she lives here. This is like a second home to her. She has been coming here for 5 years, several times a week. Suzette tends to spend several days here, but in your world, it is only a few minutes. Oh, really? I was wondering about that. We have been here over a day, and I was concerned that Mrs. Bernstein would be worrying about us. No, she knows about this place too. That is why she had you make up the basket of food. Our food is quite different from that in your world, and it is not always palatable to humans. Very true. There were quite a few foods I could not eat last night, so having the basket of food was a good thing. What are the plans for today? Barty sighed. First, we will clean up, then we will say goodbyes to all but the squirrels. When we are done, we will spend some time getting to know each other and the squirrels better. Well, that sounds great. I really like that idea. Getting to know your people and the squirrels might be a way to help me believe. Good, let's get started cleaning up this big mess. With everyone here to help, it won't take very long. We all cleaned up the mess from the party, and what a mess it was. It did not take very long, just as Barty said. When we were done, we said farewell to the creatures who were heading home. There were hugs, tears, and hand and paw shaking. I am still amazed at how close all the creatures are. Each group is so different a culture, yet they are quite so close to each other. After the dwarves and gnomes headed to their homes, we all gathered together in a large circle. Barty steps into the center and says, "We have a new human, Janita, in our presence today. This is her first time, and she is struggling to believe. I think it would be a good idea for the squirrels to tell their story of how they got here and how the changes came about that make them different than they were in her world." Free Cracker stepped into the center of the circle and called 2 other squirrels to join him. Queen Valina moved closer to the front of the circle. As she walked to the front, we all bowed. "Rise," she said. "You don't need to bow at this time." We rose but stayed standing until she found a spot and sat down. When we sat down, we gave Valina some space, not out of respect. She was not happy with that and asked, "Do I have something contagious? Please move in closer. This is not a formal gathering. Janita and Susan, come sit next to me. The rest of you gather around." Free Cracker waited until everyone was settled. Then he introduced the 2 squirrels he had called to join him. "This is Ratine, second in command, and this is Valexa. Valexa is my mate. We are about to have our 3rd dray. A dray is a litter of kits, baby squirrels." Valexa covers her face with her paws. "Dear, I did not mean to embarrass you, love," Ratine breaks in. "Let's get to our story. It will be dark before we finish at this rate." "You're right, we need to quit chit-chatting," replied Free Cracker. "I will let you begin, Ratine." Free Cracker and Alexa went and sat in the circle. Ratine stood in the middle of the circle. It was easy to see he was quite nervous. He took a deep breath and began. "Squirrels live in your world and have for many, many centuries. One day, 20 of us were hunting for nuts. We came upon a circle in the middle of a meadow. When we were all in the middle, the scenery about us began to whirl around and change. Next thing we knew, We were by the fountain in the Crystal Valley. We were all frightened, as we had no clue where we were. We looked around at all the beauty around us as a tall creature came out of one of the houses. It was Barty. He introduced himself and welcomed us to Crystal Valley. We chattered at him as we were not used to talking. All of us chattered at once and ran around in circles. I was the first one to try to use words. It was difficult, but Barty was patient and helped when he could to help me find the right words to use. I asked, "Where are we?" "You are in Crystal Valley. You can be your natural selves here." "You know? All creatures can talk and are intelligent enough to do many of the things humans do. That includes you. You just haven't used those skills in a very long time and have forgotten what you can do." Alexa chatters to me asking, "Can we stay here? This would be a great way to raise the kids." I repeated to Barty what she wanted to know. "Yes, m'lady. You may stay here as long as you wish. I know of a place that would be perfect for you to build your homes." "Build our homes?" another squirrel asked. "How can we build anything?" Queen Valina stepped in and told us, "You are capable of doing anything you want to. You can build, create, design, talk, all kinds of things. You just have to take small steps." I was talking, that was for certain. Therefore, what Her Majesty is saying is very possible, I thought to myself. Then I said in chatter what I had thought to the group. They did not seem convinced or willing to give it a try. Try they did with much success. I worked with them first to talk. Most picked it up quickly. Our older squirrels found it hard, as they had a harder time learning new things. In time, even they were talking too. From there, we began learning how to use our paws to make things with twigs. Not real small ones at first. We also made things with clay as we got better with the twigs. We then were taken to the other areas to see the way things were set up with, both inside some homes and outside around the village. We even looked at the inside of Copper Crag. We went back to the forest and discussed ideas for designing our homes and setting up our village without too much damage to the forest. You can see the results of the decisions which were made. We have places for us to live and have gatherings, peaceful places to play for all ages, and still have forests to enjoy. We have planted nut trees from what we have brought with us and from those seedlings the elves gave us. We did not totally do all of this alone, but it was our choice how it was done. I told Freecracker thank you for sharing and giving a tour of their village, homes, and the forest. He was pleased that I had gotten so much out of the story. Do you believe now? Asked Freecracker. Everyone gathered close to hear my response, especially Barty and Queen Belina. How could I not believe? The village you've created is amazing. You talk, and very plainly at that. All of the squirrels do. We all began to say our goodbyes, with hugs, with hand and or paw shaking. Valaxina bought Suzette and I each a basket full of nuts and handmade trinkets. Thank you very much, we both said at the same time. We looked at each other with amazement, then turned and looked at Barty and Queen Belina. They just smiled at us. Then Barty said, "It is really time for us to be heading out. It will be getting late by the time we get to Crystal Valley." Belina shook her head in amazement, in agreement. We headed out the path, walking and talking about the party and the story until we came to the crossroad. We headed west toward Crystal Valley. Suzette asked me, "How are you feeling about all of this?" "Still confused, but believing for the most part." "What has you confused?" asked Barty. "This world is so peaceful. In our world there was quite a bit of violence, killing, stealing, and other things." Barty responded, "We have some crime here once in a while. The worst violence we have had is when there is a big disagreement between communities." "Really?" piped in Suzette. "In all the years I've been coming here, I have never seen any criminal action or heard of any." Barty told her, "We deal with our issues, then let it go." As we arrived at Crystal Valley, I said, "Wish we did that back home." "Speaking of home," says Suzette, "we should be heading home." "Not till you have eaten something," says Barty sternly. "Yes, Janita, he is right. I don't know about you, but after that walk, I am hungry." I replied, "Now that you mention it, I am a little hungry." "Great," says Barty excitedly. "I saved a salad for us to eat when we got back. How does that sound?" We both said simultaneously, "Sounds good." We went to Barty's home, cleaned up a bit, then sat down and ate some salad. We had a cold blackberry tea to go with it. I ate and drank until I was stuffed. Everything was so good. We sat and relaxed for a couple of hours. Then Suzette decided we needed to get going. Barty walked with us towards the portal. We said our goodbyes and gave each other hugs. Barty asked me, "Will we see you again?" "Absolutely. This place is amazing and everyone is so friendly. What reason do I have to not come back?" "So you believe?" "Yes, I believe." Barty gives me another hug and says, "I knew you would." Suzette and I headed toward the portal, said goodbye to Barty, then stepped in. This time I knew what to expect. The clouds and wind speeding by me didn't scare me as much. Next thing I knew we were back in the corn maze. That was awesome, yet a bit overwhelming. I enjoyed myself once I let go. Janita, how does it feel to have a place to escape the stress of this world? It feels great. You or Barty said no matter how long we were there, it would only have been about 10 minutes that we were gone from here. Looking at my watch, you are right. That is strange. As we were in Crystal... Shh! Dad doesn't know, interrupted Suzette. Let's finish the maze, then we can talk about this later. Okay. We went to the house as soon as we finished going through the maze. Mrs. Brennistein met us at the door. Well, Janita, what do you think of your adventure? Without hesitation, I said excitedly, it was awesome. I met new creatures, including intelligent squirrels. I felt like I was hallucinating at first. I started believing when Freecracker told the story of how they got to Crystal Valley and how they got to where they are in building their village. Then I thought to myself, some dreams are real.
Thank you for joining me at the first ever virtual Prairie Ink launch party. My name is Stephanie Gorel. I'm an English instructor at Barton Community College, and I've been asked to read to you today some Blackout Poetry from this year's Prairie Ink publication. I thought I'd provide a little bit of information about what is blackout poetry. And blackout poetry is really what it looks like. Here is an example of blackout poetry. And you can see that some words have been redacted, which is what that's a fancy word for blacking out words. Blackout poetry follows this tradition of using an already published work, such as an essay or a newspaper article or even a novel, to create a poem, to create something new. The most famous recent person to write about blackout poetry's name is Austin Kleon, and he wrote a work called Newspaper Blackout. And in this work, he talked about his process of using published works to create poetry. Kleon also says that, or claims that, blackout poetry kind of had its roots many, many years ago. Benjamin Franklin once said that a neighbor of his would take newspaper articles and create puns out of columns instead of rows. And even though he wasn't really blacking out the words, he was taking something already published and turning it into something new. Other examples of this kind of poetry include erasure poetry, which is similar to blackout poetry in that the poet is erasing rather than taking his highlighter or black marking pen and blacking things out. Another example is cutout poetry, or cut up writing, and kind of looks like a threatening note you might get in the mail, but this is actually a poem. And the Dadaists, which was an anti-art movement, kind of World War I-ish and following, there was an anti-art movement, and they were all about not following the forms. They didn't like blackout poetry because it seemed to be akin to censorship. And that was not something they held in high light, so they used this cutout poetry instead, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to read just a few of these poems. They're actually quite short, but nonetheless very interesting. How this came about, all of these poems were ones that were created by a group who attended last year's launch party. And one of our little activities at the tables were to take some articles that the host had placed out on the tables, and he gave us some black marking pens, and he just asked us to create poems out of them. I'd never heard of blackout poetry before, but it was really fun. And so these are just the result of that. There are no names on them. They're anonymous. I know who created a couple of them because I wrote them, but otherwise I don't know who wrote them. And it's just interesting to see what someone took out of something that was already published. So here's the first one. Modern love. Down to the core, I want to fall into it emotionally and connect in a big modern love universe. It's kind of interesting. So really, maybe a half a dozen words out of this one-page article turned into a little poem. So here's another one. It might be different, and a full-fledged certainty is it would help to set rules different from the ordinary, and therefore will encourage to be more mindful of their experience other than seem baffled by the reasons. It's very important for us to test real life, in quotes. I think that's kind of interesting. It's almost like a little conversation. So here's another one. Everything starts with a dinosaur drawing by hand swatches of dogs, hair, and clothing. Love. It's kind of interesting. Venice caught a glimmer of time travel the night of evacuation for hippies on the Pacific coast between and through the mountains. Established frequency in life. And here is our final one. Who we are and what we do is the story of love and loss fit into a larger narrative of quiet and shouting restraint. So that's all I have to say about Blackout Poetry, except to say that it might be a fun activity for you to try yourself. One of the articles I read while I was doing a little research for my presentation today was about a fellow who was a writer and a poet and had hit a wall, had completely run out of ideas and didn't know what to do and was getting kind of depressed about it. And he came upon this book by Cleon and decided, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose by looking at somebody else's published work and seeing if I can create a poem out of it? And he found it very inspiring and published his own book of poetry called Messages of Hope, which were all poems that he created out of these other works that he had found. So whether it's for fun, whether it's to find some new meaning in your life, you might give it a shot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for our 11th issue of Prairie Ink and this first digital launch. We're very grateful that you could join us. If you're still interested in Prairie Ink, you can find more information where you can also pick up a digital version of this year's edition as well as digital versions of our previous editions. You can pick up a print copy from various locations on our Great Bend campus, as well as specifically in the offices here in the classroom building. Thanks again.